Most of us were always taught that if you have a good job, you're going to be rich and you're going to be set up for life. In actual reality, billionaires, millionaires, the wealthy people are operating on a completely different playbook. These are the 6 rules that have really transformed and had the greatest impact on my life so far. Average friends, average life. And I don't mean to sound snobby about friendships or anything. I mean to emphasize how important your environment, your influences, and what you consume really is on you, your money habits, and how you even think about your objectives, your goals, your dreams. And James Clear had a really shocking statistic in his book, Atomic Habits. Someone could be 57% more likely to be obese if they had an obese friend. So you can't deny the power of influence that your environment actually has on you. And what I really don't want to discount is actually the impact of your online environment as well. Who you're following, who you see every single day, who you're observing, and how you're letting that influence your life. Because you are what you consume, and you will consume the vibes you surround yourself with. And this has really taught me to evaluate my circle and think about, who am I growing with? Who's supporting me on my journey? How am I doing that for the people I love as well? And is that even possible? Who you decide to marry or be with for the rest of your life is one of the biggest decisions of your entire life. And I always thought that was complete BS, I'm not gonna lie, because I thought you could have multiple soulmates. How is someone going to impact your life that much? And actually, your partner, your choice in partner, has so much impact on your finances. And I'm talking completely separate to financial compatibility. I'm talking about the influence that your potential partner can have on your overall success and well-being as a human. Because really, your partner is like your closest person, they're your best friend. And ideally, you'd want them to be supporting you in your goals, helping you achieve your goals, and vice versa as well, rather than you two being on completely different paths yet being quite financially compatible. So marrying the right person is actually so essential for long-term wealth, because you want to build an empire with someone, not by yourself for someone else to maybe enjoy if they want to and if they're compatible. True wealthy people, like real wealthy people, do actually have a frugal lifestyle. And when I say frugal, my definition of frugal is not minimalism. My definition of frugal is buying what you truly need at the best quality. And that can seem very minimal sometimes. Investing into quality also doesn't mean buying the most expensive thing. It's actually evaluating what is the best thing. If it is a material item, what is the best thing for your needs at the time? And what this lesson has really taught me in my life is zoning in on the values that I hold really close and the ones that actually give me joy and purpose, and not the ones that I want to look like they give me joy and purpose. And I think there's a very distinct distinction between the two of those. What is it that you want, that you truly want, not the things that are going to make other people think that you're a good person or that you're a rich person. Drawing the line between those two things is absolutely key in defining what frugality means to you and what your actual money values are. I spent a lot of time trying to buy my way into feeling validated, also known as buying things to impress people, buying experiences to impress people, buying drinks to impress people. And I hate to sound like very big older sister vibes, but the older you get, the more you realize people never cared. And the perfect quote for this that always rings in my head whenever I feel tempted to buy something for the sake of validation: spending money to show people how much money you have is the fastest way to have less money. And what this lesson has really taught me is to evaluate what my spending actually is and who it's for. And that's what's resulted in like lots of savings for myself, especially when it comes to month-to-month spending, the kind of daily stuff that adds up that really didn't need to add up, rather than anything big ticket. And evaluating, where your validation comes from does have the side effect of, evaluating your own self-worth and how you're actually boosting that and actually letting go of getting that from external sources. So this one's a little bit of a mixture between, it was a financial lesson and also a little bit of a self-love, self-help lesson, but the financial impact has been massive. If you actually want to invest and you actually want to grow your money, you actually have to be pretty boring. And this lesson is a very I'm very grateful to have learned this lesson because I want this to be boring. I am not the personality type to be looking at trading prices every single day, be researching companies all the time. I don't have the time, and I also don't want to do that effort in order to invest. So I am so glad that actually to build real wealth and retire early and buy nice things and create that safety net for myself, I can just focus on a boring old strategy for long-term growth. And this strategy has not failed for anyone, especially if you have applied a long-term strategy. You're not just trying to invest for excitement or short-term gains. If you apply a long-term strategy, make it boring, you can just ride out the ups and downs in the market and come out looking very strong. The sixth lesson is my favorite lesson and something I'm probably never going to shut up about, and it's applying the Pareto principle to your early 20s, to those big spending areas. And now the Pareto principle states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. It's also called the vital few. And the way I've learned this lesson is that the vital few for me were those few categories of my budget when I was in my early 20s that took up a big chunk of my budget. Statistically, in your 20s, you have the least amount of money to play with. So it's those vital few categories in your budget that's going to actually determine 80% of the flexibility, the financial flexibility you'll have. So don't ignore short-term sacrifices that you can actually make in your early 20s, especially because those vital few categories in your budget in your early 20s are likely to be rent and bills, which they were for me. They're probably going to be the biggest part of your budget for most people, the biggest part of your spending. So how can you make sacrifices or make those adjustments to save on those bigger costs that allow you to then save more money and also play around with that money, start to invest it, start to learn about how to save it, so that later on in your 20s and also in your early 30s, you're way more set up than if you decided, hey, no, my 20s is a decade for fun, why should I sacrifice? But then you end up just having to play catch up later on. Contrary to popular belief, life does not end when your 20s ends, okay? So don't screw over your future self. Tell me what your most impactful personal finance lessons have been in your 20s, because I really want to hear more. Mine feel very general, but they really have made such a massive difference to my life. And if you are in your early 20s, I have the perfect budgeting routine, budgeting split for you that will give you some flexibility and also just provide you a framework to actually get good with your money. And something else that I think you should do in your 20s is also invest into your personal education, whether that's reading more books or actually just investing maybe into like a financial coach or something. I think personal investment is ideal. So if you want to start reading more books and get into your smart girl era this year, I would also watch this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.